Refusing to believe. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Recovery Classroom. My name is Drew, and I am a recovering alcoholic. I want to thank everybody who came out to our crosstalk meeting Friday night. It was a lot of fun. Many of us in the room just sitting there having that back and forth dialogue and conversation, asking questions, changing topics, talking about a plethora of topics, and it was just everything that we'd ever wanted whenever we first set out and created the Crosstalk series of meetings. So I want to again thank everybody who came out and hung out with us Friday night. We'll do it again this coming Friday night. Over the last several monologues, I've talked about those lies that we tell ourselves, that our addiction tells us, convinces us of, and then we turn around and we come up with a lie that we tell to other people. I talked about how when you walk into the room, you hear everybody say, the first thing they say is, you got to get honest with yourself. Well, that's the most like nails down a chalkboard saying I think I've ever heard. It is absolutely true. And I talked about how I got honest with myself and I started holding myself accountable by asking myself honest questions, legitimate honest questions, and giving myself honest answers. And I used the illustration of whenever I just stopped lying to my wife. My wife would ask me whenever I was going to bed, were you drinking today? Absolutely I was. I just stopped lying. I remember asking myself questions like, hey, am I ever going to be able to stop drinking? And my addiction telling me, no, you're not. I changed the question. Hey, how can I ever stop drinking? And I started asking myself, that question. I'm giving myself an answer. It's like, Drew, maybe you can try something different. Maybe you can try something that you said you had tried before, but you really didn't. And of course, for me, that's exactly what I did. And I talked about using that approach of honest questions with honest answers that leads us to accountability, holds us accountable. Accountability is incredibly important, especially to the newcomer who's early in sobriety, but even more so, and we're going to talk about this in the weeks to come, but even more so to that person who's been in recovery for a really long time. I have never been almost 5 years sober, so this whole process is still new to me. I've never lived today's date ever before, so today is brand new to me. So with all that being said, it is perfectly normal, reasonable, and rational whenever I experience something I'm not sure of or I'm unaware of or I just don't know, ask those questions. There is nothing wrong with asking questions. Absolutely not. If anybody who gets frustrated with you asking legitimate questions, honest questions, then they obviously don't have the answers that you're looking for. But just think back to school. As I use this example, think back to school when you had a question about the topic at hand in class. You'd raise your hand and ask that question. The teacher would give you an answer. I've never lived 5 years sober for consecutive years of sobriety, so I still have questions. And there's nothing wrong with me asking those questions. My problem becomes whenever I get a bullshit answer. I have to be careful of that. And here's a great example. Again, going back to when you talk to somebody in recovery and I may ask you a question and ask you something like, well, hey, what's the best approach for me to do? What do I need to change in order to break this cycle of addiction? And what do? They give me the regurgitated one-liners. While true, they're annoying as shit. They give me the regurgitated one-liner of nothing changes if nothing changes. The only thing you have to change is everything. While that is absolutely true, give me something I can chew on. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Maybe I'm still not all up here, and that's okay. Again, progress, not perfection. So explain it to me. Don't give me the regurgitated one-liner. Give me something substantive that I can chew on, that I can digest, that I can rationalize and figure out how to apply to my life. The other thing you need to worry about with those honest answers is refusing to believe the answers that have been given to the question that you ask. It's one thing to say, oh, I just don't believe that based upon evidence and facts and literature and things like that. It's another thing to say, oh, I don't want to believe that. Case in point, maybe you're telling yourself right now, hey, I don't think I'm ever going to get sober. And somebody comes along and says, hey, you know what? You need to get sober. You can do it. And you go, no, I can't. How do you know? Well, granted, maybe you have tried in the past before. Have you tried everything? I know I tried everything, or I said I tried everything, when in truth be told, I didn't really try. There were some things I did not try wholeheartedly 100%. And that's ultimately how it came back to holding myself accountable, asking myself those honest questions, giving myself those honest answers, and honestly looking and saying, okay, let me give this thing a try. And today, by the grace of God, I'm still here. I'm still kicking, just not very high. And I'm still sober, and that is all that matters. Ask yourself those honest questions, give yourself those honest answers, and whenever you get an answer, make sure you're choosing not to believe that answer based upon fact and based upon evidence rather than based upon just a simple belief of I don't want to believe, because that can be just as detrimental to your long-term sobriety. So with that being said, I'm out of time. Thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. You guys absolutely keep me sober, and I could not be any more appreciative. We'll be talking again soon. Remember, you can't get drunk if you don't take that first drink.